Welcome to the series on the political economy of hierarchy. Whose desires are we living? Over the next 3 episodes, we'll unpack how hierarchy isn't just a personal habit or a cognitive glitch. It's a deeply embedded structure that shapes our desires, our labor, and even our sense of self. Today, in Part 1, we start from the biological and ideological roots, trace the historical shift in control mechanisms, and land at how neoliberal platforms have turned our dreams and passions into extractable capital. Hierarchy can be dissected as a feature, or perhaps a flaw, of human cognition, a built-in tendency of the brain, examined through biology and psychology. But here, I want to pull the camera back, wider, to the level of social systems as a whole. Who benefits from this bug? What kind of structure finds it useful that we can't stop ranking ourselves and each other? A quick clarification before we go further. I've been using the word bug, a flaw in cognitive wiring, but I want to complicate that framing now. Recent research into network evolution suggests that hierarchical structures are not arbitrary accidents. They emerge from selection pressures that favor reducing connection costs while preserving functional modularity. In biological networks, in neural architecture, in organizational design, hierarchy solves a real problem. It allows complex systems to adapt locally without collapsing globally. So hierarchy is not simply a bug. In many respects, it's an elegant solution, which makes the critique more precise and more uncomfortable. We're not dealing with a system that malfunctions. We're dealing with one that works at the level of the network, the institution, the market. The question is, works for what and at whose expense? From a Marxist perspective, hierarchy is not merely a psychological phenomenon. It functions as an ideological apparatus, a mechanism that makes unequal distributions of resources appear natural, even deserved. Structural inequality exists. That's not in dispute. But if that inequality can be translated into a story about individual merit, about talent, effort, ability, then the failures of the structure become, conveniently, failures of the self. The critique gets redirected, away from systems, inward toward the individual. Those at the top narrate their position as the rightful result of hard work and talent. Those at the bottom internalize the same story: I didn't try hard enough, I wasn't good enough. Hierarchy functions as a filter, one that renders the architecture of exploitation largely invisible. Neoliberalism has refined this structure further than perhaps any system before it. And to understand how, it helps to trace a short history, not of politics but of control. Foucault described an earlier era he called the disciplinary society. Power in that world was spatial and temporal. It worked through enclosures, the factory, the prison, the hospital. You entered a space. The space shaped you. You left. Gilles Deleuze argued that this model has since collapsed. What replaced it, he called the society of control. There are no more clean enclosures. Instead, power operates through what he called continuous modulation, a constant, ambient adjustment of behavior that follows you everywhere. In this paradigm, the individual becomes what Deleuze called a dividual, not a whole person, but a moving set of data points. Passwords, metrics, behavioral profiles, risk scores. You're no longer a subject being disciplined. You're a signal being perpetually tracked and adjusted. And Yanis Varoufakis takes this one step further. He argues we've moved beyond markets altogether into what he calls technofeudalism. The platforms we inhabit aren't marketplaces. They're cloud fiefs. And we, the users, are something closer to cloud serfs, generating value for free with every search, every like, every scroll, while those who own the infrastructure extract rent not from our labor, but from our attention, our relationships, our very identities. This is the metamorphosis. From the factory worker, who at least knew where the gate was, to the office worker inside the enclosure but with a salary. To us, for whom there is no gate, no enclosure, no clock out. The extraction is total, and it feels, somehow, like participation. Well, Foucault described a particular kind of subject that emerges under these conditions. He called it the entrepreneur of the self. The logic of enterprise, deploying capital, managing risk, seeking return, has migrated inward into how people understand and manage themselves. But what gets missed in a simple reading of this concept is that the entrepreneurial self doesn't always look like a cold, calculating optimizer. Sometimes it looks like passion, like a creative leap, like someone who genuinely believes their particular vision of themselves is worth betting on. The philosopher Tim Christians points out that many people, especially in creative industries, are driven not by utility maximization, but by something closer to a leap of faith, the euphoria of imagined success, the story of who they could become. This matters because it means the race we're running isn't uniform. Some of us are optimizing, some of us are innovating, some of us are simply dreaming, and the system has found a way to monetize the dream itself, not just the output. In concrete terms, your follower count becomes measurable influence capital. Your degree becomes human capital. Going to the gym becomes self-investment. Your personality, your aesthetic, the carefully curated texture of your daily life, it gets branded and placed on the market. We are no longer simply selling our labor. We are placing the entirety of ourselves on permanent offer. So far, we've seen hierarchy evolve from a functional network solution into an ideological filter, and then into the total extraction of techno-feudal platforms, where we no longer sell just our labor, but our entire selves. Next time in Part 2, we'll look at how this system becomes self-sustaining, through the spectacle, runaway social selection on social media, and the excess positivity that drives auto-exploitation. Until then, this is Kai Day, out.